We explain the impact of the United Nations vote to create the State of Israel. By 1947, the British had lost control of the situation. They couldn't even stop immigration, despite intercepting 50,000 European Jews and holding them in 12 camps in Cyprus. The United Kingdom was also facing serious post-war financial issues, so they passed the Palestinian Mandate off to the UN for a decision. The UN created a select committee called UNSCOP to deal with the question of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. In the committee, 3 plans were offered. One was a partition plan with 2 states and a neutral Jerusalem. Another was the one nation with 2 separate autonomous states plan. And there was a counter-proposal of only allowing citizenship to those who arrived in Palestine before the Balfour Declaration. The Zionists endorsed the partition plan, and the Arabs rejected all 3. One of the biggest Palestinian complaints was that nearly 45% of the new Jewish state would be composed of Palestinian minorities, and only 1% of the new Palestinian state would be Jewish minorities. Also, Palestinians would lose access to the Sea of Galilee, Mediterranean trade, and the holy sites in Jerusalem. Mufti Hussein, now under French protection in Cairo, said he would never recognize a Jewish state. American anti-Zionist Orthodox Jewish leaders also pushed back, arguing that the homeland wasn't Palestine, but wherever Jews found themselves. Regardless, in November 1947, on a vote of 33-13 with 10 abstentions, the UN backed the partition plan. The Arab nations began to gather their forces for war, blockading the road to Jerusalem. Many members of the American State and Defense Departments, like Secretary of State Marshall, pushed back against the Zionist resolution as well. The fear was that the Arabs in the Middle East would see any U.S. acceptance of Israel as a slap in the face, move closer to the Soviets, and then cut off oil to the West. FDR had held that position. Their worry was that Truman was undecided. In the meantime, the Irguns attacked the village of Deir Yassin. And then Arab fighters took revenge on a Hadassah medical convoy. A Jewish friend and former business partner in Missouri, Eddie Jacobson, contacted Truman and encouraged him to meet with Chaim Weizmann, soon to be the first president of Israel. Weizmann presented Truman with the Torah draped in blue in an off-the-record conversation. After the meeting, panicked members of the State Department pushed the theory that Truman was more in support of a UN trusteeship of Palestine than a partition. Truman was upset that State was dictating his policies. By May 14, 1948, the Zionist forces had taken all of the lands within the UN Zionist partition, plus Arab territory. David Ben-Gurion, new prime minister, declared the birth of the State of Israel on that day. Truman went against the advice of anti-Zionist members of his cabinet like Secretary of State Marshall and Secretary Forrestal to declare U.S. support for Israel. The Soviets recognized Israel shortly after, and the British pulled their troops out. That night, Arab forces launched an air attack on Tel Aviv that began a year-long Arab-Israeli war. Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan, with the help of Saudi Arabian forces, attacked Palestine to reestablish the borders. After a year and 700,000 Palestinian refugees, a truce gave Israel 78% of Palestine with West Jerusalem, the West Bank and East Jerusalem to Jordan, and the Gaza Strip to Egypt. Israel calls the conflict the War of Independence. Palestinians call it Nakba.